Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play Final Fantasy IV. In the last part we had kind of a bombshell drop with Golbez being our brother, but now it's time for something new in the Game Boy Advance PSP version. Upon reaching the moon with your final party for the last time, you get a message from that naming way that allows you to come up here and talk to people. Now these people are here no matter what version you're playing, so if you want some extra dialogue in like the Super Nintendo version or DS versions, come on up here. But in the Game Boy Advance and PSP version, when we talk to someone up here, we get a very special option. We'll fight our very own to the end. We can change our party formation to whoever we want.
Oh, that's such a good thing. I would personally have Palom and Porum for my two choosers.
And that's not all. Yes, their experience points and such have leveled up along the course of the game, but obviously their equipment's a bit behind. So this happens. This white mage is telling us that something happened at Mount Ordeals, and that's covered in a sinister cloud. It's time for a Game Boy Advance and PSP exclusive dungeon, one of the two in the game. The other one's post-game exclusive, and we're not going to be doing that until we get to the post-game. More on that when we actually get to the credit sequence. But it's time for some exclusive stuff, and as Kenny mentioned at the end of the last part, he has never seen any of this.
I'm so confused, but so excited at the same time.
And thus, it's time for me to decide the party I'm bringing in. I'm bringing in Sid, Edward, and Yang for this first trip through. Because no matter what you do, you have to do this dungeon in 2 trips if you want to get everything in it.
Really? Why is that?
Due to the way that the bosses are handled, but more on that at the end of the dungeon.
Alright. That kind of makes sense, I suppose.
So now let's get in the Lunar Whale and fly on over to Mount Ordeals. And in terms of what everyone's wearing, Sid and such are all outlined as you're seeing here. This is why I stored a lot of the stuff for later, particularly the equipment, the weapons. And I have this stuff all in reserve for elemental stuff, especially the claws. And now it's time to finally use those silver and golden apples. They're all going to Edward. Because as you notice, he's level 53, but he only has about 1,500 HP.
That's awful. He's about as strong as a normal white mage and or black mage. And that's not good.
His HP is awful. But that's also partially why this dungeon exists. So let's pilot the Lunar Whale over towards Mount Ordeals and check this place out.
I'm guessing that enemies have common golden apple drops or something. That's a guess that I have. It's
actually
an guess.
you're not entirely off about that, but more on that when we encounter the first enemy. And now we're treated to this little cutscene. We've come a long way since part 4 when we were last here.
How do you even remember what part this was on? That impresses me, quite honestly.
Because was it part 4? Either way, earlier on. If it was part 4, that feels right for some reason. But yeah, that causes lightning to open a new door here on Mount Ordeal, so let's go check this place out. Welcome to the Cave of Trials.
Oh, I've heard of this before, but I've never, seen it before.
Step inside if you wish to test yourself, and we do. Now, the Cave of Trials doesn't actually have that many unique enemies in it. A lot of the enemies in here are from the Self Cave and Caves of the Feymark and such. But there are 2 exclusive ones, but I only run into one of them as a random encounter. I'll go more on the other one in a moment, because I think we have our first piece of equipment here. The Red Jacket. That is the first new equipment piece for Edward. That gives +5 strength, 2 agility, 1 intelligence, 4 stamina, and it resists fire.
Why would you even be using Edward? There's nothing in this game that makes him useful, because you don't have the Loki's loot.
Oh, just wait.
I'm feeling might heckish.
I'll go over more the exclusive enemy probably when we have some downtime during one of the boss fights, because admittedly, actually no, we have a lot of downtime throughout this entire place because there's very few new enemies. So I guess I'll go over now. The other new enemy, no, actually I think I have an equipment. No, that's not a piece of equipment.
There's one that you run into as a random encounter, right? So there should be only one. There should only be one to talk about?
No, there's 2 random encounter ones. The one I think you can also find through a monster box. Here we got the Hypno Crown, which is for, what's his name? Palom. That gives, as soon as I find the tab I have it for, do I not have the Hypno Crown tab? Oh, that's awkward. Later then.
I can look it up. I can get it now if you want.
But we do have the cat ear hood, and I know for a fact I have that open, don't I? Yes, there. Actually, no, I have the Hypno Crown tab here right now. The Cat Ear Hood is resists Ice Elemental, grants 7 defense, 16 magic defense, 8 evasion, 18 magic evasion, and 5 speed.
I love how in a lot of JRPGs the cat ear helm is like the best head ornament. I just find that absolutely hilarious.
Yeah. The Hypno Crown is 7 defense, 16 magic defense, involved preventing Pigmini and Toad. And then we got the White Tiger Mask, which is the next equipment for Young. Which
White Tiger
gives,
Mask.
That I actually. That is 8 defense, 3 magic defense, 6 evasion, and 3 magic evasion, as well as plus 5 strength, I believe.
So it's basically an add to all your wow. Look at those stat boosts.
Yeah, we just got the red cap, I believe. That is 8 defense, 1 weight, 10 evasion, 4 strength, 3 agility, 2 stat. Actually, no, that's 1.
Wait,
sorry.
is it function in this game?
No, sorry, that's Final Fantasy 1 stats. 10 stamina, resists fire.
You had me scared there for a minute, because I was like, no wonder I'm always going slow against the enemy.
Yeah, but in terms of the new enemy, one of them is the Great Marlboro.
Oh.
12,180 HP. I see that brave suit. 2,000 gil and 22,000 XP. Still has bad breath. It can drop Soma drops, but yeah, that's a thing. That was the brave suit. That gives 22 defense, 8 magic defense, 55 evasion, 2 magic evasion, 10 strength, speed, and a stamina. So, very good.
Nice. Brave suits isn't brave suit like commonly like the best light armor in the game? In most games. I know it is a 9.
It's generally very good.
I don't think it's the best one in 12. It's close though.
That sounds about right. And next up, I believe we're getting the body pieces for Palm and Porum. Robe of Lords.
Robe of Lords. Nice.
Robe of Lords here in 4 is 19 defense, 18 magic defense, 5 evasion, 15 magic evasion, plus 10 to stamina and spirit, and resists fire, ice, and lightning. So that is.
Are they
Porum.
Gender exclusive? Yes, they are.
Yes. No, they're actually technically character exclusive. The Sage's robe is Palom's. That's 5 defense, 5. Actually, no, that's that's weird. It's not listed here. That's weird. Either way, it's really good. Basically, I think it's the exact same thing as the Interlude, actually. So, 5 defense, 5 magic defense, 5 evasion, 5 spirit. That doesn't sound right.
Something's wrong here.
Well. But then we get the Grand Helm, which is for Sid. That is... it resists lightning, 14 defense, 10 magic defense. You lose 10 evasion for it, but oh well. 7 magic evasion, 5 to spirit and agility. And here we have the first new actual enemy for the part, the Golden Toad. 7,777 HP, 65,000 XP, 65,000 gil. Can drop a golden hourglass, golden apples, or mega elixirs. The way you want to go about this, cast Stop on them, use Tornado, and then physically attack. You want to fight these not only for the golden apples in the case that you can help raise Edward's HP, but also because everything else it drops is still really good. It tries to toad you the first turn, but generally, if you have the right equipment on, you probably won't get toaded. And here we got the Grand Armor, which is, again, for Sid. That is 28 defense, 10 magic defense, another 10 evasion lost, 8 magic evasion given, and plus 15 to spirit and strength.
That's weird, because isn't Grand Armor usually like a Paladin/Knight exclusive thing? Like, also Dragoon exclusive as well? I could have sworn that was a thing. I could be wrong.
I don't know. But that is actually basically every major piece of equipment in here except for one thing. We've gotten equipment for everyone except for one thing. Weapons. So now it's time for us to go and find some weapons.
Weapons.
Okay, here's the Sage's robe. 19 defense, 15 magic defense, 5 evasion, 18 magic evasion, plus 10 to agility and intelligence, resist silence. Everything in here is a weapon for one of the 5 characters that you can get that weren't in your party beforehand. Each one of them, though, is guarded by a boss fight, hence most of the rest of the enemies this part.
That's kind of interesting because in the final dungeon of the game, it's the same thing for the 4 current characters you have.
Yes. And we're going after Edwards first. Because it is possibly the best out of all of them.
Alright, Gigaswarm is level 99, fun fact. 55,000 HP, 32,000 experience points. It doesn't have any weaknesses. Does it have any drops? Potions. That's the best it's got.
The main attack it has is Blood Feast, so it's going to be sucking some blood away from you. But in terms of the strategy for it, you're going to want to focus with Yang and have Edward and Cecil, rather, use a Spider Silk to slow it down. You want to have Rydia use Bahamut to maximize her damage. And Sid is mostly going to be an item user in this fight. He's going to be kind of standing by and doing stuff. Palom, if you have her in here, could use Aga spells, him in here rather, and Cecil is just overall a good white mage for this fight if he's not damaging.
I never found Cecil to be a good white mage at all, to be honest.
Well, because at this point, really, the only character you need to have in your party throughout the rest of the game is Cecil, similarly to a lot of Final Fantasy VII, actually. And I think Zidane. No, you didn't even need to have Zidane in the final party in 9, did you?
You do not in the final dungeon, but if you're on Gaia, yes.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like for Memoria, you don't need.
Yeah, you don't need.
You can finally take him out.
Not to my knowledge, no.
So Cecil's basically. Cecil at this point becomes kind of just a toolkit guy. He'll be there for item use, pure damage, or minor support. Because as you've noticed, I don't have a white mage in my party otherwise, so he's serving as much for right now. Sorrowfully, Kira, not very satisfactory at the moment. Salve is pretty good with Edward, though, if you have him, because that's what he's primarily going to be here for anyway. And that's it. But for beating the Gigas, we get the Apollo's Harp. The Apollo's Harp is 98 attack, 40 accuracy, 15 strength to agility, 15 to strength, spirit, and agility, and is fire elemental. So overall, it's not a bad weapon on its own. Out of the 3 harps introduced for Edward in the PSP version, including the ones that are in the post-game, it is the weakest. But it does extra damage against dragons, which is going to be very good for something coming up. Also, equip the Ice Claws, because the next boss is technically weak to that.
I still think Loki's loot is better.
Yeah, but let's just take a look at the damage he's going to be doing against the next boss fight.
Claws. For a second, I was like, that looks like Golbez's hand again. And I was like...
I think it might be the same sprite. Guarded by the Storm Dragon, 40,000 HP, 32,000 XP, weak to ice and absorbs fire. However, even though the Apollo's Harp is considered fire elemental, it's not going to absorb it because it's not a fire spell. I can use Maelstrom and Whirlwind, so watch out for that, but let's take a look at his damage. Wow! That's is pretty really good. Storm Dragon, though, strategy. Berserk, Ed, and Yang, just to get some extra damage in there. Spider Silk with Cecil and Sid at the first turn. Rydia should use Blizzaga, and after Cecil and Sid use their Spider Silks, just have them really kind of go all out. Though, really, with our current damage output, this boss isn't going to last that long, because Blizzaga will do quad 9s.
I'd be amazed if Edward dealt the last hit. But he didn't.
And for beating him, we get the God Hand. Increases strength, agility, and stamina by 10, defense by 7, and is Holy Elemental.
I love Holy Elemental things, because everything in late game is weak to Holy for some reason. In a lot of Final Fantasy games.
Yep. Also, I'm putting on the Gaia Hammer, because Poison Axe is going to be very useful for something coming up. And let's put the Lightning Claws on, as well as the God Hand I should be putting on. I'm just putting this on to show the difference in stat buffs. That's nice.
Man, that is quite a sight to behold.
Next up is this hammer.
I'd be amazed if it was called Sinna's Hammer. That would be godlike. Okay, Death Machine has 50,000 HP, 32,000 experience points. He has Flame, Piercing Laser, and he has Globe 199. Watch out.
Yeah, I think he only uses that at the end of his pattern, because this guy attacks in order. It's always Flame, Laser, Piercing Laser, and Object 199. Strategy for this is usual. What's it called? Berserk Yang and Sid, Spider Silk with Ed and Cecil, Radio uses Bahamut. I believe this enemy also takes quadruple damage from hammer weapons.
Yes, it does. It does have that in the extra information.
But the main reason I brought Sid along with the Earth Hammer is not just due to that, but because I believe if I used it, it would also do something interesting. Out of all the bosses, honestly, this is probably the easiest one because his pattern is set, and if you have him slowed, he doesn't get much of a chance to do much.
Yeah, it doesn't have a lot of HP either, so he's quite easy to take down.
Yeah. In fact, I believe that finishes him off. And for beating him, we get the Thors Hammer, Mjolnir. 190 attack, 15 strength, 30 accuracy, deals lightning elemental damage. Is good against machine-type enemies, and when used as an item, it casts Blitz, oddly enough.
It casts what?
Blitz, Edge's little ninjutsu attack.
Oh, that's weird.
And it's real good, though.
That's pretty cool.
However, at this point, you can't actually attack the next two unless you have Palom and Porom in your party, or Porom, rather. So what I have to do now is leave the area and come back in with Palom and Porom.
Why can't you attack them until Palom and Porom are in the party?
Because they need to be in your party in order for you to access the boss fight.
Oh, I see.
In terms of what they have, this is what they're looking like right now. Aura Staff and Fairy Ride for the moment, just because it's the best weapons I have for them at the moment. Otherwise, the equipment we got in here is on them, as is Rune Armlets. Also, I have Edge in here because might as well bring him along for something. He hasn't really changed much in terms of setup. Also, put the cursor to keep for this next fight, or is it the fight after that? One of the two, because it's not easy. Now it's time for us to fight the Flan Master, I believe. Flan Master has 35,000 HP, 32,000 XP, noticing a theme, and can reflect, drain, flare, or Thundaga you.
Why aren't there Flan princesses here?
If you attack the Flan, the Black Flan or the White Moose, they will reform upon death. And it'll, generally, the Flan Master itself just casts Reflect on itself and bounces Thundaga, Flare, and Drain spells off of itself. The dumb thing about this fight, rather, in the GBA version, is that the Flan Master himself was not targetable. You had to do, basically, area of effect magic, like Quake and such, in order to damage him. However, here, he's a lot easier due to the fact you can actually target him outright.
That's... Why do you think they would have made it that way, that you can't target him outright?
Honestly, I think it may have been a bug. But otherwise, strategy for this, Quake with Palom to take everyone out at once. Attack with Edge. Bahamut should come out of Rydia and heal with Porom. Cecil's not doing much this fight.
I love how Mega Flare can't get reflected.
Yeah, that's always real good. Defense-piercing attacks like that of any kind are always real nice. I forget what happens if you kill the Flan Master before the last Flan. I want to say the last Flan will just die automatically, or you can just kill it outright. But on the whole, this fight is annoying in GBA due to the fact you can't outright target the Flan Master, but here in PSP, it's not much of an issue due to the fact that taking him out is not, you know, a trial in of itself.
Does seem like kind of a big problem, though, in general, for the GBA version.
Yeah. At this point, all I really need to do is, Cry is pretty good here because I can confuse them, and otherwise just Quake to take them out. And for beating this one, we're going to be getting the Triton's Dagger. Oh, and I got a Rise. Cool. Actually, on the whole, Porom is actually a better White Mage than Rosa right now, because her Spirit's higher and she has better spells.
Huh.
But in terms of the Triton's Dagger, 62 attack, 40 accuracy, 15 intelligence, and casts Flood when used as an item. I believe it's also Water Elemental, technically. It's probably the worst out of all the weapons we are getting here, but still, not bad.
Rydia is still the better Black Mage.
Yeah.
That is, unless you're playing the After Years.
Yeah. Because After Years introduces a whole cast of its own, basically. Like, look at that. She even got Kiraja and such. But one thing we want to do here is cast Float on our party, because that'll help us out in the next encounter. Alright. Time for the last of the 5 bosses.
This is the Tyrannosaurus. 60,000 HP, 32,000 experience points. No weaknesses. That's not entirely true. It takes 4 times damage from the ice rod and deals 1/4 damage to the ice shield. It has the pattern of earthquake, flame, ice, storm, and lightning.
So essentially,
basically just all elemental attacks.
Yeah, it basically uses the Hellhound tier attacks, slightly powered up, and just spams them at you. It's actually probably the most vanilla out of all the boss fights, aside from having to cast Flow to get rid of Earthquake. Base strategy, basically the same as the rest of them at this point. Attack with Edge, Quake with Palom. Bahamut should come out of Radia again. Spider Suck with Cecil and Porum, heal when necessary. If you're bringing in other characters, really, you can do whatever you want with them as long as they're doing damage to things. Like Yang, if you have him here for some reason instead of like Edge. You can physically attack and all that. Focus. That general kind of thing.
All things considered, this is quite interesting.
Yeah, I like this area a lot, actually. I just wish it had more unique enemies aside from the boss fights. Because the Golden Toad, you can run into in other areas, I believe. And while the Great Marlboro is frightening, he's nothing really to fear.
Nothing like it is in 10 or 8.
However, at the same time, I can see why they would do that, because having you face entirely new enemies with party members that are technically not properly equipped for it wouldn't be good. But for beating that one, we get the Seraphim's Mace, which is 50 attack, 20 accuracy, 15 spirit, does extra damage against undead, and casts SNL when used as an item in battle. So, pretty good.
Wow, that's really high. That's like really high spirit.
Yeah. And that concludes our business in this area. It's a fun little side dungeon to get your characters leveled up. You can completely ignore it, which is nice, but I got other stuff to do.
I feel like it's not a very good idea to ignore it. I mean, you can go ahead and use the original party if you want.
Honestly, that's what I do most playthroughs. If I come in here for some reason, I am coming in here so that I can have the equipment for Yang, because the most I change my final party in the last area on casual playthroughs is I switch out Edge for Yang. That's it.
Huh. That's fair, unless you're wanting to steal things.
Yeah. Either way, with that, we're going to need to end this off here. Thank you guys for watching, and in part 16, I think, we're heading on off to the final area. We're not finishing the game quite yet, because it's kind of a long place, but we're certainly getting started.
And there's a couple things that we want to go after.
Yep. See you guys then.